Hello guys, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about the 2006 NHL Draft hosted in Vancouver. Now this 2006 draft, it's known for a lot of top-heavy talent. There wasn't a lot of draft steals to come out of this draft, as you'll probably see. And as we look to the first round, we see 3 players that have not played an NHL game drafted from that first round. And that's pretty much where we've seen for this series. It seems like 3 is about the average. Now, of course, throughout that top 3, you started with Erik Johnson. Number 2, you had Jordan Staal. And number 3, last but not least, you had Jonathan Toews. Now, with players over 500 games, of course, you start with Erik Johnson. First overall, he has 637 games played, 70 goals, 192 assists for 262 points, him being drafted by the St. Louis Blues. Not the best first pick overall in the draft that we've seen throughout this series. It's not terrible, but it could have been a lot better. Number 2, you have Jordan Staal, 843 games played, 206 goals, 276 assists for 482 points, having originally drafted by the Pittsburgh Penguins. And third overall, you got Jonathan Toews. 791 games played, a little bit lower than I thought he was going to have. 292 goals, 382 assists for 674 points, being originally drafted by, of course, the Blackhawks. Fourth overall, you got the newest Stanley Cup champion, Nicklas Backstrom. 815 games played, 209 goals with 590 assists for 799 points. And being drafted by the Washington Capitals. You have Phil the Frill Kessel, 5th overall. 914 games played, 330 goals, 411 assists for 741 points. And being drafted by the Boston Bruins. 6th overall, you got Derek Brassard, 760 games played, 162 goals, 266 assists for 428 points. And being drafted by the Columbus Blue Jackets. 7th overall, you got Kyle Okposo, who has played 670 games played, 173 goals, 285 assists for 458 points overall, and him being originally drafted by the New York Islanders. 10th overall, you got Michael Frolik, 728 games played, 137 goals, 199 assists for 336 points, and being drafted by the Florida Panthers. 12th overall, you got Brian Little, 754 games played, 200 goals, 275 assists for 275 points, and being drafted by, of course, the Atlanta Thrashers. 14th overall, I got Michael Grabner, 553 games played, 158 goals, 91 assists for 249 points. And he drafted originally by the Vancouver Canucks. You got 17 overall, Trevor Lewis, 574 games played, 61 goals, 78 assists for 139 points. Him being originally drafted by the LA Kings. 18th overall, you got Chris Stewart, 652 games played, 160 goals, 161 assists for 321 points. Him being drafted by the Colorado Avalanche. 22nd overall, you got Claude Giroux, 738 games played, 214 goals, 463 assists for 677 points, him being drafted by the Philadelphia Flyers. You got 28th overall, Nick Foligno, 768 games played, 169 goals, 231 assists for 400 points, him being drafted by the Ottawa Senators. And now to round 2. In round 2, you got Jamie McGinn to start off, 36 overall, 598 games played, 113 goals, 100 assists for 213 points, and he drafted by the San Jose Sharks. 44th overall, I got Nikolai Kulemin, 669 games played, 121 goals, 153 assists for 774 points, and he drafted by the Toronto Maple Leafs. 45th overall, I got Jeff Petrie, 527 games played, 45 goals, 122 assists, for 167 points, and being drafted by the Edmonton Oilers there. You got Sean Matthias, 47th overall, 151 games played, 90 goals, 84 assists for 174 points, and being drafted by the Detroit Red Wings. And then 50th overall, you got Milan Lucic, 811 games played, 192 goals, 289 assists for 481 points, originally drafted by Boston. Not a shabby pick, not too shabby for that last pick in the second round. In the third round, you start off with 69th overall, nice, Steve Mason, who has 476 games played, a career 911 save percentage, career 270 goals against average, and being drafted originally by the Columbus Blue Jackets. 71st overall, I got Brad Marchand, 602 games played, 226 goals, 233 assists for 459 points. Sadly, he doesn't have any more games played because he keeps getting suspended. Originally drafted by the Boston Bruins. And the last pick in the third round, you had Cal Clutterbuck, 72nd overall, 714 games played, 109 goals, 97 assists for 206 points, him being drafted by Minnesota Wild. In the round 4, he didn't really have anybody. He had Matt Bolesky, 112 overall. He had 473 games played, so just below that threshold, but 75 goals, 82 assists for 157 points, and being drafted by the Anaheim Ducks. In the 5th round, you had one guy. You had Chad Johnson, 125th overall, 173 games played, career 9.10 save percentage, career 265 goals against average, originally drafted by the Pittsburgh Penguins. In round 6, you had a couple guys. Andrew McDonald. Now, I don't really like Andrew McDonald, but still, 160th overall, not a bad pick there. 539 games played, 28 goals, 124 assists for 152 points, him being drafted by the New York Islanders. 177th overall, you got Matthew Perreault, 496 games played, just below that 500 threshold, but still pretty close there. 108 goals, 171 assists for 279 points, him being drafted by the Washington Capitals. And in the last pick of this draft that's really worth noting, in round 7 you had 189th overall Derek Dorsett, 515 games played, 51 goals, 76 assists for 127 points, a astounding 1,314 penalties in minutes, just a beast, originally drafted by the Columbus Blue Jackets. Now for my top 5 from the draft, I have number 1, Nicholas Backstrom. Obviously, he's shown he's a beast, and he definitely deserves to be number 1 out of here. But, of course, there's been amazing forwards coming out of this draft. Got Claude Giroux, number 2. I have 3, Phil Kessel. Number 4, I have Brad Marchand. If he had more games played, I'd put him farther up, but he just hasn't had the sample size. Number 5, I have Jonathan Toews. He's pretty overrated, but still a pretty decent player. Now, the story of this draft, to me at least, this was an absolutely horrendous draft for defensemen. When Erik Johnson is your best defenseman to come out of this draft, come out of any draft, it's a pretty sad one. On the forward side of things, it was incredible. For forwards, it was astounding. But for the defensive side, if your team needed a defenseman, you didn't go too many places. There was only a few good pieces here, and not a lot of great ones. Erik Johnson is probably the best defenseman to come out of this draft, and when that happens, it's a pretty sad draft for the defenseman. On the goaltender side of things, you saw a couple of guys come out of this draft. Not a ton, not like we've seen in other drafts. We saw in a couple of backups, a couple of good, decent goaltenders, but nothing too special. But on the forward side of things, you saw a lot of players. You saw some studs like Backstrom, Giroux, Phil Kessel, Brad Marchand, and Jonathan Toews, but you saw a lot of good pieces, a lot of great forwards coming out of this draft, and that's probably the biggest story out of this draft, is just how many good forwards have come out of this draft. Not the defensemen, not the goaltenders, obviously we've seen, but for forwards, it was a pretty good one. And you saw some of the best forward stars in the game right now come out of this draft, and it's been one of the best forward groups that we've seen out of any draft so far. And while it has that, it doesn't really have too much else, with the defensemen and goaltenders obviously lackluster. At least they have an amazing forward group to go with it. And yes, while it wasn't the deepest draft ever, it didn't have as many stars as we really think it did. It had a lot of forward depth, a lot of forward stars coming out of it. Not the defensemen, of course, not the goaltending wise, but we saw a lot of forwards, and pretty much that's it. If your team needed a forward, you were pretty likely to go well off, and obviously the forwards coming out of this draft were pretty fantastic. So that's going up for today, guys. Make sure you like and subscribe. Tell me down below what you think of this draft overall. What is your top 5 favorite players coming out of this draft? And I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.